anything?
But in China they had these clan associations, right? And I think what I think is the higher IQ people in the clan association, they moved their way up in the clan association and got money and power. Right? So by marrying the right people, you can improve your IQ.
Oh yeah, genetic breeding. I mean, like
you have the right breeding.
If you're emotionally calm down and separate certain world events like Hitler, you saw with rapid eugenic research what we can achieve. But the idea that we're somewhat equal and of equal innate value is a liberal malaise that we reject in our daily life. You're not like me and I'm not like you. You'll hold me in contempt of some things and admiration in others. And you will hold that right to condemn or admire. There's no equality. There's no one like me.
Well, I don't know how you can believe in the myths of the Bible. That's all, basically. They're myths, aren't they?
That was the first thing.
They're myths. I mean,
but IQ is this. Followed by conscious. It's the best predictor. Cross-cultural, cross-time, cross-longitude.
All right, you got the results. What are you going to do with them?
Outcomes of
You got the results. What are you going to do with them?
Academic and professional performance.
because we do know intelligence is not really quantified.
You don't see many lawyers and lawyers and surgeons and people running administrations who have an IQ of less than 105, 104. And we've got the professions cross-cultural, cross-time, cross-IQ.
So what's your point then?
Think of it. Don't get emotional. Think of it as capability of chimp. So if I model a chimp, I'm saying what?
Okay.
If you think of a model of a chimp, what's a model of a chimp?
Sorry?
We do statistical factor analysis. Chimps have 5 dimensions of personality plus IQ, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you can't change your IQ during your life. You can change your hazard curve. You can change your personality, and all you can then do is breed and pass it
What
on.
about the Chinese?
That's what it is.
The Chinese.
You can go to university and educate
No,
yourself.
before that, the Chinese in Hong Kong, they send their 3-year-olds to this. It's called Kumin. It's a Japanese mathematics class.
Indians
and the 3-year-olds, they actually educate them very well. So my family, the 3-year-olds, are more knowledgeable than I was when I was 6, because I did nothing till I was 5. I just
But different people have different stories. And
so will that change the IQ? Do you think that changed the IQ?
Well, we
when
know things from the Flynn effect, we know everything else. We can see that diet, nutrition, certain things change IQ. But any real changes only happen after intergenerational breeding. And we see the current IQ and what they are, so you can make people as smart as they are. Falls into bands, and their predictability is formidable.
But where do you get your
Now,
stats
can we
from?
change them eugenically, do in-life gene cell therapy replacement? 100 years, we might be able to fix certain traits and edit them, even when we're alive. But for now, as a Christian, 10 billion chimps, more than 25% distribution, mainly in Africa, are low IQ people. That's a humanitarian fucking disaster.
But where do you get your stats from?
Now,
Where do
you
you
can
get
call
your
me a
stats
white
from?
colonist, and I want a black colonialist like Trump to fucking sort it out. But it's
where
not
do you
going to
get
be
your
from the
stats
left.
from?
It's not going to be equality. It's going to be right-wing authority.
you just made
Black supremacy.
Where do you get your stats from? How do we know you're not making up these stats?
Okay,
Well,
wait,
you
so
can look for data. I'm a computer scientist.
so-
You don't even know what numbers mean. I don't know what you
I see a lot of your data, but a lot of it could be bullshit. You could just say, you can be sad about the data.
It's widely available because I have nothing else to do in my life.
But did you?
They couldn't be correlated about any idiot with an internet connection. I mean, that's probably something a good strategy.
you said blacks have low IQ.
On a group average,
Okay, yeah. So, what does that really say?
they perform less on these metrics. So you look at the metrics of 8 and 14 subdivisions, cognitive, spatial, moving an object. They perform different grades of performance, being on time.
What about if you've got a bad memory? I've got a terribly bad memory.
That's one of the components.
I've got
so if
terrible.
I give you a 3-digit number and ask you to spin it. If I give you a 5-digit right now, by 7 and 9 you start breaking down. And that's your ability. Ashkenazi Jews are probably going like, hey, no problem. Mixed Ashkenazi going like, I can do this shit.
Okay, so do you think it's genetic, or do you think
It is genetic. It's not these things. It is genetic.
it's not genetic? Okay, so IQ is
But just the correlation of the data.
okay. So IQ is used for measuring logical thinking.
IQ is a G
And
test.
there is and IQ tests are fundamentally flawed for measuring the entirety of intelligence. There's 8 types under intelligence. So think of a pizza,
I know the
There's 8
models pretty well.
slices.
I've got
Sorry?
code that runs IQ models. I know IQ models very well. So if you want to off the top, I do.
Are they geared up to Europeans?
Okay,
No,
so
but IQs are not important. IQ is a proxy for G. G is what matters.
okay, so think of a pizza, So there's 8 slices, and then one slice is what the IQ test measures. It measures your logical thinking with abstract objects.
Spatial, object, movement, time, repetition. The things we call in things we call in the old science cognitive function. Can you take a 3-digit number and reverse it right now? Let's give me a 5-1. Sorry? So suppose I give you longer digit numbers. Do you know the numbers of digits of pi? Number pi is?
3.142.
Can you repeat it after me? Okay, 3.14. Let's go. 3.1415. Can you repeat it? Just say it back to me. 3.1415.
3.1415.
3.1415926535.
What does this?
I'm testing in
That could
life
just
your
mean you're
ability to
practicing.
perform certain
But that could just
mathematical
mean you
functions.
practice that a lot. But you might just practice that a lot.
I can test
you
it
might just
randomly with
practice
people.
that a lot.
I can give you other tests.
That is so. That is more of a memory kind of thing.
Correct.
But that could be something that you
G-loaded
practice a
tests
lot.
have spatial tests, memory tests, right? And if I have a surgeon and a doctor, he's gonna have fucking good memory, right?
Is there a book for people like me that don't know anything about it? Is there a book you recommend?
Google.
Oh yeah, Google search results.
The next time we meet, or you can find me on YouTube, make a comment. So I can steer you once I see what.
Oh yeah, when you're on YouTube, this would be on YouTube. Just say the book. One book for somebody simple like me. Yeah.
I can point you to better than that. I can point you to people who have summarized some things if you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But the point is, people are wasting time. Indians and Chinese don't have this Western liberal thing about, we're all equal. They're just racing ahead on IQ research. Going,
I know.
We know we're not equal. Can we engineer better?
In Hong Kong, the children, they want the children to go to the best kindergarten, the best school, and the best university, and the best of everything. That's the
my
Chinese.
niece just finished becoming one of the youngest doctors in the UK, just before she's 21.
Yeah.
So that's just like.
But that's
Nigerians
also.
shot Nigerians
I bet that.
Rocking it, right?
That's due to your influence a lot as well.
Also genetic.
And genetic.
I can't make you learn to reverse the
No,
numbers.
but you can steer them away from decadence, can't you?
We could accept the truth that people are what they are.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the PISA average results, which
PISA,
is like
what's
both
it called?
the PISA report, so it shows all the countries of how well they perform in terms of maths, reading, and science.
PISA. And that's reliable, the PISA, is it?
Yeah. It's
right.
and the people on top are like Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan.
But the problem is these people, the sample size, it's not equal. It's not equal for all. And the level of education, so IQ scores can be increased by better access to education and better socio-economic benefits. So countries that have better, let's say, societies and education in place tend to have more IQ compared to countries.
I don't know. I haven't studied this subject, so I can't. I don't know.
Would you agree that high IQ people tend to live in cities?
Tend to live in cities.
Yes.
Not necessarily.
So you think there could be just as many high IQ people in the country than in the city?
Rural places to enjoy life because, like, let's say the city life is too rough and they just need somewhere to just focus and appreciate nature. And I think that's like
that's all fair and well, but you got to admit in the cities people have a lot more opportunity in terms of education. And
My grandfather came from Scotland. There's no work in Scotland, and he became joined the Masons as a chief engineer. My uncle was a chief engineer. My dad's family, part of it from the countryside, and they thought they weren't even literate. They thought they put a cross on the paper when they signed it. And he designed television sets and made his own television set by his own design in 1950. But they have to come to a city to do that. They come to a city. Generally, they come to a city.
Very recently, before the Industrial Revolution, villages didn't explore very far, so they stayed in their very small communities. And often they would intermarry with cousins.
That's right.
And often that if they're inbred, that's not very good for terms of IQ. There's a reason why we have the stereotype of the village idiot. It was basically someone inbred.
Oh, they always had the village idiot, every village, didn't they?
As soon as rail lines got in progress, it allowed for these people to spread out and make the gene pool more diverse, which means allows for high IQ. More into different different genes, and instead of just the same genes in that village. So it's all like a work in progress, and I think the theory is, and it's not like we're having a go at Africa per se. We're saying that people who live in a very, very warm, tropical environment tend to have less, have to prepare for less things than people who live in the cold north. Like winter is something that you take a lot of preparation. I mean, Africa is just like, it has everything. The crops grow all year round. It's got animals. It's got fruit. Why do you need to invest in storing seeds for the winter? Why do you need? Because you don't have that. So
are you worried? Are you worried about black people?
No, I'm not worried about black people.
Well, you had intention. I'm asking the intention and gender. Just so it's quicker. So it's quicker.
You're right, mate.
Dude, I'm so fucking tired of this. Like, I talked to Bob for half an hour and then I get fucking swamped by Christians. Why? Guys, I don't want to talk about religion. I don't. I just get swamped by Muslims and Christians here.
Well, stay
it's
this
not my
end of the
choice.
park. Don't go over that end. That's where the Muslims and Christians.
We need to create our own pagan clan, so that we don't get swamped.
Just maybe today I will speak about my own interpretation of religion.
Right, I've got something you might be interested in. Have you heard Abelos?
Okay, yes.
He was a Muslim.
I understand the part.
6-7 times you lost.
No. And he said that the first
you agree
subject
that
of
intelligent
Muslim
people
study
tend to have
is philosophy,
intelligent parents, right?
and the Quran is just rhetoric.
Now, it's the same with athletes.
And
It's no
and,
coincidence that the famous
Muslim-
basketball players.
No,
are
what they
sons
don't
of
believe now,
professional basketball
and because
players.
it died,
So our
out,
talent is
didn't
going
it?
to,
But he
you know,
said
reproduce
it's just
with people
rhetoric
with
there to persuade
the same as talent. That creates the next engineers or
It's gone back to that.
scientists.
They just
You know, it's all about hierarchy. Like, again, Jews did very well because
and he
they
said,
always marry
the
up
Quran,
in
you
the
can't take it
European upper classes
you've got
and had more connections and more
study Aristotle
opportunities,
or
and
Plato.
they always obviously were in finance
to get
and
the
banking,
truth.
and obviously
And
that
it
creates a lot of
died out,
like, you know, problem-solving intelligence.
Well, I suppose he got stoned.
Remember when I said, society
That's some King's College London. They got all
You guys can't hear. You know. Yep. Oh, the evolution of intelligence and geniuses and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I said, I remember saying societies with more education and social benefit, socio-economic benefits tend to have more IQ. So when you bring it back to this class, the people at the top of the hierarchy, they have more of that compared to the people at the bottom. So it's the same thing, like universally, societies or communities or whatever word you have to use with lesser education, lesser problem solving, lesser social factors, they tend to have less IQ. It's more, to me, I don't think it's genetic. I think it's more environmental, because when you change
what informs the genetics? Doesn't the environment inform the genetics?
Okay, so we can say they're both playing.
All right, that's it.
So it's like the genetics. So if you have the ability to be intelligent, you also need to be in a society that permits that.
Right.
So if it could be dormant until you leave your society that doesn't permit it to a society that actually permits it. So what I'm saying is, like, apart from that, I'm saying like intelligence is quite a difficult concept to actually quantify.
Well, I could make the argument that the bubonic plague or the Black Deaths that struck Europe was actually in the long term a benefit to Europe, because it meant that the people who survived planned ahead for the future, you know, thought outside the box, weren't like the, you know, typical dumb poor peasant that very easily got swamped by the plague. And so there's a new starting point from that smaller population, but now everyone's of a new like progression in terms of intelligence, and therefore it grows from there.
I don't disagree. What I'm saying is intelligence is...
So it's the environmental factors that kill off people who are not as intelligent, and then the new pool starts over.
I don't agree with, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, like, that's just one part of intelligence. Like, there's different types that all come together to make intelligence. It's not just about mathematical skills and problem solving and, you know, tests. There's like if I was to, you know, time travel and I dropped you in, you know, like ancient, let's say like 300,000 years ago, you wouldn't need this mathematical problem solving skills to battle, you know, lions and stuff. You have to think of something else. You know, how we discovered fire and all that. So there's so many things that go into intelligence. So I would have to search it up, but there's like 8 types. And problem solving, logical thinking is just actually one type. It's like one slice of a pizza, calling it full pizza.
So do you believe we're progressively getting more intelligent?
Yeah.
I would actually say our ancestors were more intelligent. I'll give the Victorian times, that particular chunk in history, you could take a typical Victorian person and he'll be, or she would be smart enough to be a teacher, you know, because their literacy skills are a lot more advanced, like, you know, even children's books, you say words like Aquarius, you know, Aquarius, I can't even say it, but, you know.
Are you talking about like recent type of ancestry? You're talking about like the Greeks,
Oh, it all goes up and down, you know, in certain times. So it's not like a linear path that gets progressively better. And it may seem that we're getting more intelligent, but actually it's down to several factors. After the Industrial Revolution, they provided more advanced medicine, more nutrition, and it meant that the lower classes, whose often their children would die at like a ridiculous rate, you know, but when these new advances, you know, came, they were able to stay alive, and therefore the lower class population, which is often low IQ in comparison to the upper classes, grows at a faster rate, and the contraceptive pill played a big factor in where women no longer had to suffer the negative consequences of having casual sex. So that meant their population, it meant their birth rate then declined. So not only are the lower classes progressing up, you know, the middle and upper classes are, you know, falling down, and therefore we are digressing in many ways in terms of intelligence, because, you know, in order to keep a high IQ population, you need the upper classes and middle classes to be reproducing at the same rate as the lower classes, but now it's completely out of whack now. Because you even get silly, you know, teenage girls who don't stay during college because they got knocked up and have to have those kids, you know, whilst intelligent middle class girl knows she has options and therefore will see her career more of advantageous than having children at an early age, you know. As you see, like in Africa or Muslim countries, you know, it's a very strong collective, very strong tribe. The woman has to reproduce as much at the earliest age most of the time, and, you know, and it makes sense because it's a lot of poverty and therefore children die at a faster rate. But we're now seeing what's happening in Africa is that all these charities now, you know, obviously solving the problem of child mortality more, but it's not giving them any incentives to create more safer conditions, more advanced you know, structures. It's you know, it's like the typical welfare system where people just get the money but have no incentives to actually move away from that and to be on their own 2 feet. Yeah. Because if you spoil a child, it's going to be dumb. You have to give it challenges. You have to discipline.
I think it's kind of it depends on the child also. I mean, it's not like it's relevant to all children. Some children actually, like Kylie Jenner, for example, as an example, but she took that privilege to make the $1 billion industry of makeup and stuff like that. Even Trump grew up in a rich, wealthy family.
Yeah, but he stayed rich, and that's saying something.
Yeah, so it's not like all children get done. Some do, and some don't. Yeah, so what are you, right? Are you centrist or right wing or left wing?
I'll call myself a pagan nationalist. A pagan nationalist. So, you know, I'm, as of Anglo-Celtic heritage, I respect the traditions of my ancestors, and, you know, find comfort and spirituality from there, and also understanding of the text of the historical myths of the past as allegory and how to carry on with our lives.
You've been watching a lot of Jordan Peterson.
I did like Jordan Peterson, but I think his conception is too individualistic, and when you look at game theory, you know that the collective always wins. So, you know, and we see historical examples of Jordan Peterson's philosophy that happens during the Greek and Roman times, but doesn't flourish because it's outcompeted by the collective groups, which are like the Christians, you know, because they had the literal interpretation, and that meant they bred like rabbits, they were very dominant and taken over. Whilst if people follow Jordan Peterson's Neo-Platonist philosophical type of idea, it's like, oh, it doesn't really matter if I have children or not, you know, what does it all mean? We're just floating on a big gas ball or something, you know, might as well just smoke drugs or, you know, just talk about philosophical ideas whilst we're getting taken over by these people who maybe have a very simple interpretation of the world, but doesn't change the fact that they are more dominant in terms of pure brute force, you know. And they got the numbers. So it's a balancing act of having the agnostic interpretation of things, but also the literalist interpretation of things, and that's how I see my paganism. Is that I can acknowledge that maybe there is a God, but that's not what
I don't really know like how Europe was. I mean, I knew Europe had paganism before Christianity, but I don't know what kind of pagan. I don't know like the specifics.
Yes, it's only recently starting to like become more self-evident than it ever has been before, because we now know civilization goes back 10,000 years ago.
Sorry. You know Ben Shapiro?
Yep.
Jordan Peterson. They say the West was created to be successful by Judeo-Christian values. Do you agree with that?
No.
So you think it's even before Judeo-Christian values?
Judeo-Christian values come from paganism, you know, so what does that mean? That, we put a label because we say this is what it is, even though those ideas came from much older religions. Like, I can make a claim that the Judeo-Christian theology almost exclusively comes from ancient Egyptian texts. Partly it is almost word for word. Even the Ten Commandments. Oh yeah, I'll even acknowledge that the influences from the Babylonians. Zoroastrianism played a big part. Before then, there was no concept of this good and evil struggle, and then the Jews got exiled to Babylon, and they obviously took a lot of best ideas there to make their theology sound more, powerful. Because they were frustrated that they weren't the big empires like Persia or Babylon or the Roman Empire. They thought that they would be like the chosen people, and they would be the empire of the world, and God will deliver the Messiah and all that stuff. So you understand that these are for the most part man-made ideas, but the concept all comes from this one unifying religion that existed 10,000 or even before longer. And that's where we get some echoes of the Atlantean myths and all that stuff, where a lot of the world, and you see their structures, they're almost exactly the same despite being on different continents in terms of the pyramids or other buildings that are very aligned with the stars and the sun rising. And it is basically all sun worship in many respects.
Are you talking about, because I stumbled across alchemy, amathism or whatever it's called. Is that what you mean, or is it different?
It is different because there are interpretations of sun worship that is used by the elites that are influenced by this sort of Babylonian cult. But the concept of the sun belief is basically accepting that we are all made of this. We are all the sun, made of the sun, or made out of star matter, and therefore, and the sun's nourishing. It's important not to replace it as being a literal god, because gods are more conceptions of humans, and that's our way of understanding the world, and that is worthy of worship. But there's obviously things that are beyond understanding. We love that Mormonism as the one, something that obviously created everything, but is beyond our conception, and therefore not worthy of worship.
So this pagan traditions were the ones that made Europe, like the West.
The remnants of it, because there was a big catastrophe in the flood, that happened before the last ice age, and there's these documents of these wisdom bringers that all taught people a very similar concept of, and obviously it got lost throughout the ages. So I don't know how accurate it was when Christianity came in, but essentially even Christianity adopted that model because the cross is a symbol of the sun. Pagan crosses existed as well, and because it all was it's all based around like the star systems or astrological sort of reasons. And you see Jesus is seen as the Son of Man or the Sun God, and that's manifests himself in other pagan gods or sons of gods that rise and resurrected after 3 days, because it's all it's all like based on around the winter solstice, where the sun is dead for 3 days around December, and then it rises, and that is allegory for dying for 3 days and then rising up again. And it's all the same story, and Jesus is one of the latest and very and very influenced examples, but it's not the only one. So all the modern religions today do descend from like that same concept.
Yeah. So are you kind of spiritual or not spiritual? So there's two types of people that I've met like this, and one is we're using this allegories or myths as utility for structure, and the second one is we actually believe this myths as spiritual manifestations of some unconscious.
It could even be literally. We don't know who started civilization, so you could have both or one or the other, but it's good to give the masses, especially who need to have a literal interpretation of things, to get them motivated, because not everyone can think allegorically.
I'm one of the few Jews when you get finished Miller, which is 17, but I also got baptised by someone on the slide.
I mean, a lot of Christians will call you a devil worshipper.
So I'm baptised.
The Abrahamic religions, they have this concept that anyone who's outside of their circle is a devil worshipper.
I think it's a very scary thought of viewing the world in the sense that all this evil happens because it's God's plan, God wills it, and therefore people can pretend that we're doing these awful things in the name of divine pursuit. But with my concept, there's no good reason to commit atrocities in the name of something, because the gods are not all good, all powerful. They are us. They are just as flawed as us, and they're just capable of random acts of lust, wrath, or something like that. The only thing worthy of worship, it really is the family and our ancestors who managed to get us here.
But it doesn't matter why they come, the intention of mine.
So that's where the nationalists
family, the tribe, and then the human race. Until we get invaded by aliens, I think people are going to have to be very, how you say it, just respectful to other nations and not try to change them demographically, culturally. We can't. I don't know what we could do for the subjective sins of the past, but it's always going to be a human part of ourselves to want revenge for perceived sins, but that's why we have Speaker's Corner to discuss these at a mature level.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crucial emotional discussion relating to that, because the damages of some actions in the past are still there today.
It does feel like it's used as a weapon to reinforce these things, other nations, they got fucked, but they didn't allow their resources to go to one thing. Instead, it went to making themselves better.
That's why I'm really against the concept of eugenics and kind of saying superior race. And I mean, I don't know if you believe in evolution.
Inspires
but the evidence for evolution, the Australopithecus afarensis, that it suggests that we all came from a small portion in East Africa.
That's where the evidence. That's where the evidence.
Outside, and then those places more less sun, so you lose the peak, and then you kind of become light skinned, and you evolve and evolve. Yeah, so that's why I'm really against that concept of eugenics, because it's really a weapon just to do harm.
Are you guys doing race and IQ still?
No, we were just God, what we were talking about.
Yeah, you were saying something about Christian. If you're not Christian,
my paganism. That's
you're condemned or something.
No, condemned is a very harsh word. It's what happens to what we believe you have as a soul. condemn is one way to look at it. That's all judgment value and ontology. We believe that there's something that inside us that are not human. Think of it as like geek magic shit. Think of like magic shit when you grew up. We got some magic. Now you don't have to believe you have magic. You can wander around and you're I know I have magic. And I'm looking at your magic going, it's not activated, it's fucking magic. It's fine. You don't have to activate it. I
mean, it's kind of like the thing is,
you have to find it yourself. And you can be a very successful person, live a very happy life, fully fulfilled with no faith.
Yeah, definitely.
Correct. And I'm not making the claim that you can't. Yeah. And there'll be no hellfire for you. But boy, can you do more stuff when you have it, mate. It's like an extra fucking take Batman with a couple more toolkits. So you can use it selectively. I have to get out of jail sometimes. I like go fucking Christian on them. And I fucking love you.
I used to be a Christian.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, I grew up as a Catholic.
Yeah, I mean, most people.
I had a 20s, I had a very intense sexual stage of my life and shit, man.
That's the thing. Despite all the flaws of Christianity, we can still like have it as a great sort of like system that does like give a perspective to people, and if they want to believe in literal interpretation, that is fine as long as they're good, rational people. And if they want to believe in allegorical type, then that's.
And they shop in different things. They shop in express cultural values, express cultural ways. You don't see many Christian shoplifters.
Yeah, because who am I to tell?
You don't see many Christian shoplifters.
Who am I to tell someone that she thinks that she's going to see her loved ones in the afterlife? You know.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. You know, it's just
even
like.
at a more micro level, Rich, you don't see many Christian shoplifters or muggers. Not because they're black, white, or brown. It's because they're Christian.
Because we're not animals.
So society with a lot of
anymore,
faith values.
so we need something to fill in the void.
Yeah. But the real reason.
Anyway, it's been superb talking with you.
Come take over everything from your humanity. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Capitalism. It was capitalism at its most aggressive form. And what you have today is not capitalism the way Victorians were practicing it. There have been many battles conflated to get the work week down, to get things like Social Security active. Unionization has been fought on. So the improvements that we have today are not quote-unquote capitalism in its most pure form. It's a hybrid model. And then there's the other aspect of